speaking on the pastime of Lord Chaitanya and his devotees cleaning the Gundicha temple, which is also called as Gundicha margin in our Gaudiya Vaishnava lineage, Gundicha Marjanam. And the significance is that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, he gives a long purport which Srila Prabhupada has also quoted in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Srila Prabhupada has given his purport and he has taken inputs from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj's purport too. So the philosophy behind this pastime, as explained by Srila Prabhupada, is that all of us, we are interested in rendering unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service to Krishna. As has been explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Savai Pungsang Paro Dharmo Yato Bhaktir Adhokshaje Ahaitukya Pratihata Yayatma Suprasidati. Thakur Bhakti Vinod, I'm so sorry. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it has been explained that the topmost religion for all embodied soul is that wherein one offers uninterrupted and unmotivated devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who is known as Adhokshaj, the infallible one and person who is beyond material perception. And by practicing such unmotivated and uninterrupted service, one actually feels pure happiness within one's heart. So in order to be able to render unmotivated and uninterrupted devotional service, the prerequisite is a clean heart, a very, very clean heart. And what could be the challenges in having a clean heart is explained by Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and their explanation is reflected or is manifested through this beautiful pastime of cleaning the temple of Gundicha or the Gundicha temple. So first we'll very briefly understand the philosophy that is there, and then we'll describe the pastime. And since it is going to be in two sessions, today and next week, we would try to cover this pastime in these two sessions. So the heart is the place for Krishna's residence. And when we speak of the heart, it is not the organic heart that we are speaking of. It is not the physical heart that we are speaking of. The heart is where one's consciousness is. What do we mean? The heart is the place of one's consciousness. It basically means that aspect of our existence which has the most meaning for us, which is most meaningful for us, which is the place where we would want to store or keep hidden or keep protected our deepest interests. That is what the heart is. So typically the heart would be called as the place of our consciousness, Chaitanya, where the Chaitanya is, where our consciousness is. But allegorically, we can always use the heart as a concept, because in the material body, the heart is the most important organ. Uh, it also is the place which gets affected by emotions. Any emotional state that we are in affects the organic heart. It affects the physical heart too. So it is also an allegory. It is very allegorical too. So within this heart, within the consciousness which embodies our existence, we as being spiritual beings, this embodiment of our existence in the uh, in the state where when we have a material body, that needs to be revealed. This our spiritual existence, the spiritual moiety, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj would call, in the embodied state where we have a body, where we have a physical body, where we have this material body, in this state, our spiritual existence has to be remanifested, it has to be awakened. And for this awakening, the center of all our desires, which is the allegorical heart, that needs to be clean and it needs to be pacified. It needs to be shanta or pacified, and it needs to be nirmal or clean. So within one's clean, pure, nirmal and pacified, shanta heart, the Supreme Personality of Godhead feels comfortable residing. Now Krishna can exist in all circumstances because Krishna is always transcendental. Since the entire understanding of the heart is allegorical, therefore, from the point of view of the practitioner, the devotee, the practicing devotee, from our point of view, we feel obliged to offer a clean and pacified heart to the Supreme Lord, for Him to be seated there, for Him to exist therein. Obviously, what this means is right now our heart is not as clean and as pacified as it should be. Therefore, a practicing devotee must undertake this cleansing process, this detoxification process. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exemplifies this process through the only writings that he has given us, called as a Sikshastakam. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Just that part of the Sikshastakam we are going to quote today. Cheta, again, this is Sanskrit, Cheta, which is related to Chetana or consciousness. However, when we translate it into the English language, we could call it the heart. The Cheta Darpana, the mirror of one's consciousness has to be cleansed. That is how the translation is. The mirror of one's consciousness. Or in more simple words, it would mean the mirror of the mind. However, that is not completely appropriate, although it is not really very far from the original meaning. We could also call it as the mirror of the heart. Sometimes Chitta, Cheta, is also called as the allegorical heart. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his teachings called as a Sikshastakam, he alludes to the process of cleansing in the very first line of the first stanza of the 8 verses called as Sikshastakam that he has given us. These are the only known personal writings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The other teachings that we have received are through the writings of the 6 Goswamis who have received the blessings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and received teachings from him. From Rupa Goswami's writings, Sanatan Goswami's writings, Jiva Goswami's writings, predominantly Gopala Bhatta Goswami's writings, Raghunath Bhatt and Raghunath Das's teachings and writings. So they have been blessed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give us the Vaishnav theology and the Vaishnav philosophy, the Gaudiya Vaishnav understanding of Vaishnav philosophy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us 8 verses. These are his personal writings. The first line and the first few words is Cheto Darpan Marjanam. The heart is unclean and now it has to be cleansed. Bhagavan Shri Krishna, or the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, in his teachings, the revered Bhagavad Gita, he also speaks to Arjuna along similar lines. He says, Aham agyana jam tamaha. Tesham evanukam partham aham agyana jam tamaha. Nashayami atma bhavastho jnana deepena bhasvata. Here, antastha refers to the allegorical heart. Once consciousness is contaminated, that means the allegorical heart is unclean. And what is the contamination? Agyana jam tamaha. It is an immense load. Like in today's times, there is this virus that is affecting the worldwide population. So there is a viral overload. So there is this immense overload, very infectious, very contaminating and very dangerous. An overload of agyana. Agyana means ignorance. Why is it an overload? Because Krishna says agyana jama. That is why it is an overload. So agyana jama tamaha. And it is not just ignorance, but it is the darkness of ignorance. So there is ignorance which in itself keeps one in the dark. Plus, the darkness also contributes to the intensity of darkness. And Krishna is so merciful that by his compassion, he helps each one of us overcome this deep, dense darkness of our heart through the torchlight of knowledge, or by giving us transcendental knowledge. Another place where another scripture, the Srimad Bhagavatam, explains about the contamination of the heart is every day. For those of us who attend Srimad Bhagavatam class, in the invocation prayers, before we begin the class, we say this. Hridayantasthoya bhadrani vidhunoti suhrit satam. Actually, we don't. It is those series of verses. I'm so sorry, we don't say that in everyday classes. But what we say is, what we chant in the invocation prayers is within those series of verses. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, this phrase Hridayantasthoya bhadrani, abhadrani refers to inauspiciousness. So all that is inauspicious within the heart is removed through Shrinvatam Swakatah Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanat, is removed, is the heart is cleansed of all inauspiciousness simply by receiving knowledge through the process of hearing, through the process of hearing Krishna Katha. So this is the introduction to what is happening, or what are the teachings that are passed on through the pastime of Gundicha March. So here, this is the state of existence in this material world, and somehow or the other, Ai Rupe Brahmanda Brahmite Kauna Bhagyavan Jeev, by one's immense great fortune, one has received an opportunity to understand that in the human form of life, one has to clean one's heart and also pacify the heart, or keep the heart pacified. These are two important activities, and they support each other, and they are independent of each other. Having a clean heart does not necessarily mean that the heart is pacified. And having a pacified heart does not mean that it is completely cleansed. Cleaning of the heart refers to contamination that we are aware of, and deeper contamination that we have been carrying over so many lifetimes. That is what we are addressing through the process of cleansing the heart. And pacification of the heart means, in the present, trying to control our mind and senses such that the heart or the mind, that is how cleaning the heart and keeping the heart pacified are independent activities. At the same time, they support each other. If we read the purport that Srila Prabhupada has given to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we'll see that he uses both of these terminologies. So, we have been fortunate to receive this opportunity to understand that we need to clean the heart in this human form of life. Now, we need to work with the fortune that we have received, with the fortune that we have had. And what is the work? The process of work? Krishna Katha. Hearing the topics of Krishna consciousness. By hearing these topics of Krishna consciousness, the heart gets cleansed and the heart also becomes pacified. During the process of pacification, one has to, or in our attempt to keep the heart pacified, what one has to be careful about is not to be distracted by the so-called benefits that one receives during the process of cleansing. The process of cleansing, which is the process of hearing and chanting, is called as yoga. And during the process of yoga, when we practice yoga sadhana, we get certain benefits which manifest in terms of karma and jnana. These are just distractions, fruitive intent, and unrequired philosophical speculation. And then there is also the aspect of mystical perfections or siddhi. So Rupa Goswami, he says, Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavritam. Becoming free from these distractions of fruitive intent and philosophical speculation, and also staying away from mystical perfections, is what keeps the heart pacified. And cleansing of the heart through based on the Gundicha margin pastime would be that cleaning the heart of all the dirt that is there. And what kind of dirt or unwanted things are there in the heart? These are in the form of straws, grains of sand, weeds, dust, etc. So these are the various forms of contamination. Further on, they will be described a little more. But right now, we are just reading through the purport that Bhaktisiddhanta has given us and Srila Prabhupada has given us, and they just introduce these two viewpoints. So, as soon as we take these precautions and we go on with the process of hearing and chanting, the heart proportionately becomes clean and also pacified. So what are these contaminations in the form of dirt, dust, grains of sand, straw, weeds? These are called as material desires. Material desires are commensurate, or they are proportional to the present times, to the attempts that people are making in the present times for economic development. So wherever there is modern understanding of economic development, which basically economic development in modern times basically means how much can I have and from whom all. So trying to be the center of all the greed that can exist in the world, trying to be the center of that, means being intensely greedy, is the fuel for modern day economic development. And how does such greed arise, which is called as lobha or lalach? It arises from so many material desires, ichha, or material desires that a person has. So this kind of existence makes one's mind and heart burn. One lives a life which is very much inflamed by material desires. Narottam Das Thakur sings about this in a poem, in a bhajan. He says, Sansara Vishanale Divani Shihiya Jwale Juraite na koinu upay Juraite na koinu upay. Thakur Narottam Das, he says, Sansara Bisha Anale, the poisonous fumes of existence in this material world called as sansar, burns one day and night. And unfortunately, one does not have any other opportunity, one does not find any escape from this in material life. There is no other paryaya, there is none other options available for one. Judaite na koino upay. Sansara beshanale divanishi hiya jwale judaite na koino upay. So, a sober person, as Srila Prabhupada would always say, a sober person realizes that unlimited materialistic desires or the consumeristic attitude, this unlimited expression of consumerism, whether it is in the material world or whether it is even in a practitioner's life, this is very serious contamination. And specifically, when there's a whirlwind, when the mind gets agitated, because the senses see something, hear something, and the mind gets agitated, then there's a whirlwind within the mind, within our heart. And what it does? This whirlwind causes such severe agitation that all these dust particles of contamination, all these dust particles of material desires, they fly around our allegorical heart in all directions. One is consumed by so many ambitions and so many desires for material enjoyment that one becomes totally exhausted, and still one is helpless and feels hopeless. Amongst these material contamination or these material desires for enjoyment in this material world are also certain desires that appear to be favorable and auspicious. This is called as fruitive intent. That I will do these sacrifices, I will do these tapasya, this fast, or this amount of chanting, because I want to have a better situation in life. Like some of us, we just sometimes feel, or people, those who are practicing the chanting of the holy names, every day chanting on their beads, the fruitive intent could arise within our minds. I need to chant because it keeps my mind peaceful. Keeping the mind peaceful is just a stepping stone, because we want Krishna to reside in our heart. We want Krishna to reside in our mind. Mama mana mandire, ek baar to aa jao giridhari. So within the temple of our mind, the temple of our heart, we want Krishna to reside peacefully and happily. So that is our lakshya, that is our goal, that is the end goal. Pacifying the mind is just a stepping stone. So if we are chanting the holy names of the Lord simply for pacification, taking that to be the goal, then we are just halfway through our journey. So association is very important for reducing the material fever. So cleansing of the heart takes place along with pacification when one engages in hearing and chanting in good association. Then, so these kind of, as I said, which seems to be auspicious activities, there are some that are really unmerited activities, unmeritorious, like out and outright sense enjoyment. But controlled sense enjoyment, controlling our senses to enjoy later on, to have a better facility later on, that is also one of the grains of sand within our heart, one of the contaminations. Another problem is with philosophical speculation. Now, one of the problems with fruitive intent is also that one does not know how much is too much and how little is too little. So although one is trying to clean one's heart, because one is also trying to enjoy within limits, within limits. Oh, I am sense control, I will only have so much enjoyment because there is this fruitive intent. There's a karma aspect, fruitive aspect. So the cleansing is compared to the bath taken by an elephant. An elephant takes bath, cleans oneself by entering a reservoir water, and once the bath is done, the elephant comes out of the reservoir and again sprinkles dust on its body. Now, physically for the elephant's existence that is needed. However, philosophically, the point that we derive from such an act of the elephant is that the cleansing is inconsequential in one sense, because one is again putting dirt on oneself. So that is a danger of the fruitive intent, which exists as one of the grains of sand within the temple of our heart. Then the other is philosophical speculation, which basically tends to lead one towards impersonalism, towards monism, towards unnecessary speculation, like the entire existence is simply zero. That is unnecessary speculation or wrong speculation. And also there are the distractions of the mystical perfections. So these are also other grains of sand that contaminate the heart. What do grains of sand do? Whenever you walk on the beach, sand is soft, but occasionally within that soft sand, you feel pricks, you feel irritation, because there are certain grains that are harsh. So these grains of sand, these contaminations within the heart, they constantly irritate us, they constantly agitate the heart, they constantly agitate our consciousness, they cause irritation to our consciousness. And whenever there's irritation, one is agitated and one cannot focus on service. So how will Radha and Krishna be served happily when they take residence within our heart, if our heart is being irritated by these grains of sand? So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, through the process of Gundicha Marjan, he has addressed this need to clean the heart, and is also set an example, set a precedent, uh, giving us philosophical messages and philosophical teachings, how we could, during our own spiritual journey, clean our hearts and pacify our hearts. There is more to this philosophy, but we will come back to this philosophy and a deeper understanding of different philosophical points later on. Now we'll come to the past time, because I'm short of time, just 10 or 15 minutes more. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had taken sannyas, and he had taken up residence at Jagannath Puri, or in Jagannath Puri. He stayed there for a few months, and then he took permission of the devotees of Jagannath Puri, and he travelled to South India. The travel time is roughly about 2 years. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned back to Jagannath Puri. So for a couple of years, the people in Jagannath Puri were in intense separation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returns back. So people in Jagannath Puri and the people in Bengal, people in Odisha, that was known as Utkal Pradesh then, and the people in Bengal called as Gauda Desh, they were very happy. And people from Bengal travelled to Jagannath Puri on the occasion of the Rath Yatra festival. They came during the summer months to Jagannath Puri, and they stayed in Jagannath Puri, taking the association of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So during those times, when Lord Chaitanya had come back to Jagannath Puri again, and the devotees had also come in, that particular year, after Lord Chaitanya's return, the year after of his return from the South Indian tour, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the month of Ashad, that is the present month, generally it is the month of June, July. It is called as the Ashadha month, according to the Hindu calendar, and also the calendar that is the almanac, that is followed by, traditionally followed by the Jagannath Puri temple. So in this month, the month of June or July, the phase, during the time of the waxing phase of the moon, which is called as the Shukla Paksh, is the day when Lord Jagannath, he gets onto his chariot and he takes a trip from the doors of the Shri temple, the Shri Mandir, the temple in Jagannath Puri, where Lord Jagannath along with Baladev and Subhadra stays. He takes a chariot ride from that place, from the doorsteps of the temple, the main gate of the temple, to another temple, which is down a street known as the Grand Road, a distance about 2 to 3 miles. He takes a trip down that road, and this road, it is called as a Badadanga, or the Grand Road. the um, the King's Road. So here is the king, where Lord Jagannath is the king of the universe, the Lord of the universe. So he comes out, he ascends his chariot along with his brother and sister. Each one of them have separate chariots. And the chariots are pulled by their devotees and they're brought to this temple. So the Boradanga, it begins from the Sri Mandir and it ends at the Gundicha temple or the Gundicha Mandir. So the chariots are brought to the Gundicha Mandir and Lord Jagannath, he stays in the Gundicha temple for 7 days. And on the 8th day, he takes a trip back. So this pulling of the chariots towards Gundicha temple is called as Rath Yatra. And when he returns back from the Gundicha temple to the Sri Mandir, to the Jagannath Puri temple, to the Nilachal temple, when he returns back, that is called as the return Rath Yatra or the Ulta Rath Utsav. So the Rath Yatra is called as a Rathotsav. And then his return journey is called as the Ulta Ratha in the local language. So the Gundicha temple is functional for 7 days in a year. The rest of the time it is just empty. So since there is not much activity in the temple space the entire year, the temple kind of gathers dust, dirt. It gathers that. It's all temples in India or any temples in the world, they are in the open ground. So there is, the elements, the wind blows, it brings in dust, it brings in sand. Jagannath Puri is, the temple of Lord Jagannath is right on the beach it is right on the shores of the Bay of Bengal, so it is right next to the sea, sometimes called as the ocean too. So the temple kind of needs to be cleaned before Lord Jagannath can come in there along with his sister and brother. So previous to Lord Chaitanya, this activity would be carried out by the king's servant. The king of Jagannath would send his servants in and they would cleanse the temple complex. This particular year, Lord Chaitanya, he called for 3 people who came and visited him at his residence, the Gambhira. These were Kashi Mishra, who was the overall supervisor of the Jagannath temple. Along with him came the Padicha, or the superintendent of the temple Tulasi, and also Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, who was the king's minister of religion, the Rajpurohit. In Lord Chaitanya's presence, all 3 of them felt that they were very fortunate. And Lord Chaitanya, he requested of them, I would like to clean the Gundicha temple along with my devotees. So this happened on the day prior to the Rath Yatra. So one day prior to the Rath Yatra, Lord Jagannath comes out of a 15-day hiatus where he is away from public view. He goes into his private chambers. And the pastime is that the Lord recuperates. He's had a very, very exhaustive birthday celebration in the form of the Snani Yatra. And for 15 days, he's recuperating from that. So this period is called as the Anavasara. And at the end of that, on Netrotsav day, the Lord gives darshan again. He is available for public view. People can come and publicly seek his blessings. And after that, the next day is Rath Yatra, the Rathotsav. So on the day where Lord Jagannath comes out of his 15-day hiatus is also the day that the devotees go and clean the Gundicha temple. So Lord Chaitanya, this is the full moon day of the month of Ashad. Ashadi Amavasya. He called for the superintendent, Kashi Mishra and Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, and he requested them that I and my devotees would want to do that, or my devotees and I would want to clean the temple. So the Padicha, the superintendent of the temple, he said that, dear sir, we are simply order carriers. Whatever you order us, whatever makes you happy, is our life and soul. The king has personally instructed us, and me included, that we should serve you and serve all of your desires. At the same time, you are such a great personality, you are such a revered personality, that there is this hesitation in you personally, with your own hands cleaning the temple. However, since it is your desire, I would seek your blessings to make arrangements for 100 brooms and 100 water pots to be brought, and they can be used in your service the next day. Lord Chaitanya was very happy, and he dismissed them. They went about carrying out the Lord's orders. The next morning, the Lord woke up, and some of his very close associates had come to visit him at the Gambhira. The Lord welcomed them, and then he applied sandalwood paste to their foreheads, which indicates love, affection, and good fortune. And then he gave each one of them a broom in their hands. And by that time, all the devotees had heard about Lord Chaitanya's desire, and they had come and gathered outside Lord Chaitanya's residence. So the Lord comes out, his associates come out, they have brooms in their hands. The superintendent of the temple has made arrangements for 100 brooms and 100 water pots, which basically means in hundreds, in multiples of hundreds. So each devotee has a broom, some of them have water pots, and they go to the Gundicha temple to clean the temple. The Lord begins with the temple itself, the sanctum sanatorium. He cleans, he brooms, he dusts the ceiling, the walls, the floor, and he specially sweeps, brooms, dusts, and cleans the place which is where the seats for Lord Jagannath's, the seating place for Lord Jagannath and Baladev and Subhadra would be there. So that raised platform along with their seats, he removes the seats which are very heavy, he moves them, he cleans the entire platform, he cleans those seats, and he places them back on that raised platform. Then they broom the temple. Then they broom the area called as a Jagamohan, which is between the temple and a place outside the temple where people sit and do kirtan, which is called as the Kirtan Mandap. Then they clean, they broom the Kirtan hall and all the spaces in between very diligently, sweeping and collecting grains of sand, dirt, dust, dried up leaves, dry straws, weeds, and anything else. Once they have a small pile, when Lord Chaitanya personally, when he had his pile of this broomed up stuff, he picks that up in his own upper cloth and carries it out of the temple into the distance and throws it there. Offers it to material nature, Mother Nature. He knows that Mother Nature would later on take care of it. Throws it away from the temple. Seeing his example, hundreds of devotees who have accompanied him, they do the same thing. The idea is, once we are cleaning a place and removing all the dirt, the dust, particles of grains of sand, straws, everything, we need to be careful. We throw it so far away that any wind burst, or a draft would not carry back this dirt and bring it into the place that we have cleaned. So basically it means when we clean our heart, we have to kind of throw away all of this material contamination in the form of desires so far, far away that the influence of time and the influence of modes, which in the form of whirlwinds pick up all this dirt and they bring it places, even if these influences are there, because we have thrown away this material desire so far away from our heart, they wouldn't be able to enter our hearts again, because the distance itself would not be covered by them, because we have taken precautions by throwing them way away from our hearts, from our very life, from our very existence. Like we send them to the next city. All our material desires, we send them to the next city, to the next planet, to the next universe. That is how far away we throw it away from our minds, from our heart. We cast it away. So, Lord Chaitanya did that. And the devotees, when they saw the Lord personally doing it, picking it up in his own upper cloth and making so many trips outside, they were so excited. They were so motivated. And Kaviraj Goswami says, because they were so excited and they felt so happy with their mouths, with their tongues, they were chanting the holy names of Krishna. They were calling out Krishna, Krishna, Hari, Hari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. They were chanting like that. So the entire atmosphere was filled with the chanting of the glorious names of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. Then the Lord, he went and cleaned any other structures that were used in the service of Lord Jagannath when he stayed here. He cleaned up the kitchen. He cleaned up the storerooms. He cleaned up the rooms that were used for other services. He cleaned up other small altar places, other small temples around. Because when Lord Jagannath comes, the entire host of demigods come with him, who are his servants. They need their residences too. So there are various residences around. He cleaned all of that. Then the servants of Lord Jagannath who would be staying there and serving him, they have residence places too. So he cleaned up all those residence places too. He cleaned the outer courtyards. He cleaned the inner courtyard. He broomed and he swept everything with the brooms. And Lord Chaitanya, to keep the devotees enthused in a very humorous way, he would encourage all the devotees to be very, very diligent and to not be lazy. And sometimes he would have this competitive mood. He would tell the devotees, let us see who can gather up the most amount of dirt. And the devotees would get very excited. So they would all pile up their dirt in piles. And they would look at each other's piles and they would say, oh, this pile, that pile, this is larger, that is more, this is less. Interestingly enough, the pile of dirt that Lord Chaitanya had accumulated by cleaning the temple was way beyond anyone else's piles or all the piles put together. That was how enthusiastic Lord Chaitanya was. Kaviraj Goswami says that Lord Chaitanya cleaned the temple as if he had 100 arms. That was how enthusiastic he was. Which basically means we have to use all of our abilities, all of the resources that we have. It is like we also kind of feel as if we have 100 arms when we are trying to clean the temple of the heart, the temple of the mind. After they had cleaned, they had broomed, they had swept the floors, the pillars, the ceilings of each and every structure, the outer courtyard, the inner courtyard, and they had taken all that dirt and they had piled it up quite a distance away. Lord Chaitanya brings them back for a second round of brooming and sweeping, wherein now they look into the corners, the fine cracks, the not so very easily accessible places, and also the places that they had cleaned up in their first round of cleaning. Any finer grains of sand, any specks of dirt, any remaining specks of grains of straws or dust, whatever is there. Now the finer aspects of these contaminants were being gathered together. And the devotees, somehow they found that energy, the enthusiasm to do a second round of deeper cleaning. Like many people in their lockdown, they have done deep cleaning. Like they've gone into their garage or their storerooms and they're like, oh my God, this is like from 15 years ago and it's still here. Need to trash this. Deep cleaning. People who take care of their face, the facial needs. You have to do a deep cleansing of the pores. All the skin pores, deep cleansing. Because there are certain dirt particles that really go in deep. They find these nooks and corners in the skin. So Lord Chaitanya, he did a second deep cleansing. And after that, there was another round of cleaning and another round of cleaning. But our time is up, I think so. So this is the first part today, part 1. The cleaning of the temple of the heart. We will continue on with this description in part 2 next.